Hey, what's going on, Bean Dudes? Today I have a very nice little conspiracy that I've put together using a ton of different facts and mysteries from previous videos that are all starting to make sense. This is an amazing time in Animal Jam for lore and for new additions, and I feel like there's so much coming up, and I have a great idea about what one of those things might be. As you probably know from the title, I think that they are going to add a new land right here in this big blue open space right here. It seems a little weird, I know. The ocean lands aren't that popular, but I feel like Animal Jam definitely has some plans to make the oceans pretty popular with this new addition. But I will cover those after I basically prove that this will be the new land. I mean, I don't want to be too sure, but after analyzing all of this evidence, I really feel like it would be so hard for it to be anything else. It just all points to there being a brand new land right here. So if at any point you do feel skeptical, just keep watching, and I promise by the end you'll be convinced. So let's start with the most obvious thing. There used to be 3 little buttons right here that showed shops, theaters, and pets, but Animal Jam recently moved them into this new tab that shows all 3, which obviously if Animal Jam was to add a new land here, those buttons would be in the way. So they preemptively moved them up here so that when they add this new land, they won't be in the way. That's obviously just a very baseline conclusion, but there's a lot more to it. The day that I'm recording this video falls during the message in a bottle update. This is an update in which some random person is sending us bottles with messages in them through the sea, like they're washing up on the crystal sand shore, and you can read them. And today the message said that the prison was driving them a little crazy, and it almost felt like it was moving. Well, I think we can all conclude that Animal Jam wouldn't really throw that in there for no reason, and obviously the prison would have to be moving, or else that would be a waste of a message. So, I think it's pretty logical to conclude that the way the prison is moving is because they are above the sea. Most likely their prison is aboard a ship, or something along those lines. And there have been a lot of ships right in this little area. If you go to Connie Cove, you'll see that there is a huge sunken ship, because it seems logical at this point to conclude that this is kind of like Phantom territory, and over here is where the Phantoms are, and this is one of their sunken ships. But it gets even better. On the back, there's actually a hidden Phantom emblem. So this literally is a Phantom ship. And inside, there's a flag that has a Phantom on it. So I think we can all agree at this point that this is pretty much a lost Phantom ship. Similarly, there's even more hints that the background is going to be a new land that's controlled by the Phantoms. If you look back there, you'll see the outline of a sunken ship, just like the one right here, which really makes me think this is where the Phantoms are putting all of their ships. And since we basically know that this mysterious person is trapped on a ship, it seems logical that they would be trapped on a Phantom ship, and that the Phantom ships are all crashing right around here. So what I think is going to happen is this land is going to be released, and there's going to be some huge new underwater adventure where you have to like go and fight the ship. So it might be like part land, part underwater. And then this also makes me think that maybe Animal Jam will do something cool where they make like a half underwater, half land, because they really need to make underwater better right now. No one goes on here. You can go on a server in Alden where it is completely stock full and there will be no one underwater. But if they made some sort of hybrid land where you could go up onto the boat above it, I think it would really become popular. It could be kind of like the iceberg in Club Penguin, just this hidden mystery land on the side of the map where you could go that's right above the water. You know what I mean? I think that's very cool. And it gets even better. Just look at this geographically. The bottles have been washing up on the Crystal Sand shore, which is kind of this line along Connie Cove, Bahari Bay, and Crystal Reef. So obviously if they were to wash up somewhere onto Jamal, it would most likely be right here, because over here by the Temple of Zeus and Kimbar Outback, and over here by Coral Canyons, there are rivers that are flowing into the ocean. So it seems like if there was a place that those would end up when they were dropped over here, it would be right here on the Crystal Sands beach. And even better, if you actually go to the Canyons pathway and become a flying animal, you can see pretty clearly that there is in fact water and starfish over here, really hinting at the addition of a new waterland. This has been here for a while, but then again, so has this section of the map, which makes me think that Animal Jam has been planning this addition for a long time. Everything seems to be adding up. All of this cool lore and these cool things that I've noticed in the past is all of a sudden becoming a reality. Okay, and if you need even more proof, well, you know those mysterious messages we've been getting? The only clue we have about this person shrouded in mist is that they have these eyes. And, well, there's only one animal that has those eyes in the game, and that would be the dolphin. And so it would make sense that this was a dolphin of some sorts, which is very strange. Maybe Animal Jam is just making some random eyes, because I think until this point we can assume that it was Peck or Zeus, but the more I learn about this, the more I feel like maybe it has something to do with the underwater lands, because, again, this is a dolphin, and obviously you can't be a dolphin on the lands. And now, let's talk about why, realistically, I really think this could be a new underwater land. Underwater is not that popular, and that is exactly why Animal Jam wants to popularize it. It is a whole other half of the game that is really not used, and there's so much money to be made from it, honestly. If they could release something like an underwater diamond shop, or they could make underwater promo pets or underwater promo animals a thing, well, it opens up so much new content to make and so much money to be gained. And Animal Jam is a company, and the people who work there have families and lives and pets and people they need to take care of and vacations they want to take. And so it makes sense that they want to make a little money, and you can't really blame them for that. And so if they were to release a land over here, well, they could make an underwater diamond shop over there. And if they could really use that land to popularize underwater by adding some sort of freaky new feature that was awesome and like underwater only, well, I think that they could really capitalize on that. But listen, although a lot of the evidence points to a new underwater land, it's possible that this is all just maybe for the future, and maybe that right now we're getting a different land. So let's look at the map of Jamal right now. Neither of these lands have any hints pointing to them, but I want to take you back to Play Wild. This is a feature that was removed, but they actually did give us an even bigger look of what Jamal looks like beyond the scope of this map. There are some very interesting things in here. For example, in one corner you have this huge thing of like those crystal shards you see in all the adventure caves, but what I want to point out to you today is this weird looking phantom land. If you look at this picture of one of the phantom castles, which is one of the most symbolic items in adventure, showing that weird phantom evil kind of thing, it looks very similar to how this thing looks, and it's kind of abandoned and thrown off in the corner of the world. So although this would obviously be pretty weird to implement, I do think I can see Animal Jam doing something like this where they add this kind of land into the game. Maybe you'd be able to access it separately, so I think it would be a little ridiculous to have the world map span to this length, and like you have all these unreleased lands that are just teasing us even more. But if there was some sort of second world that you could click on and go to this phantom land separately from the rest of the lands, I think that would make sense, and I think people would really enjoy that as a new land, and it might actually fit into the lore very well, because if this was to be a land adventure, well, we're gonna have to go to some sort of phantom controlled land. And if you look here, it could be this space up here next to Coral Canyons. Well, that would make it an underwater adventure, or if Animal Jam really just wants to stick with the land thing and just give up on underwater like they kind of have until this point, well, they'd have to make it some sort of phantom land, and obviously they can't have any of the lands that we have right now just be taken over by phantoms and completely redo them. So I think it would make sense if they threw in a new phantom land, you know what I mean, not underwater, above water land. But no matter what Animal Jam does, this is a huge opportunity for them, and I really don't want to see this get screwed up. And so far, they have been doing such an amazing job. This message in a bottle teaser kind of thing is exactly what excites me so much. This is like my 6th video doing these huge conspiracies, and literally every day I find out like 16 new things about the game, to the point where I'm able to make a brand new theory every single day from all the cool new stuff that's been thrown at us all of a sudden. And there is so much hype around this new land and this new adventure, and even some sort of new animal, which we know by now is a toucan. I'll probably talk about this more in a later video, but just so you know, toucans have already existed, and I think that they might play a very important role in the future of the lore of Animal Jam, because toucans have actually been here since the beta. I don't know if you know this, the game Double Up has existed since the beta, the very, very beginning of Animal Jam. And if you look carefully, you'll notice that there actually are toucans. Though they don't look like what toucans would most likely look like in the game, it is confirmed by the Animal Jam wiki that they are in fact toucans. So this does mean that toucans have been in the game since the beta, and there's obviously been a plan. What's really interesting is that they are lumped together in this adventure with things like bunnies and tigers and even the blue heron. The blue heron is obviously Mira, the only blue heron in the game, but the rest of the animals in there were the starter animals from the beta, and they're all represented by the main alphas. So Animal Jam could, hypothetically, definitely make a toucan alpha one of the biggest alphas, because it is lumped together with all these other animals in Double Up, and they've obviously had this plan since the beta, since Double Up existed in the beta, and toucans haven't been added until now. But I think no matter who the toucan alpha ends up being or what his personality is, he will be very instrumental in the future, and he will most likely become one of the main alphas, as we can see by the fact that he's prominently displayed in Double Up. Also, this adds yet another interesting layer to the new land conspiracy. If they're going to add a flying alpha, maybe, who knows, they'll add a new flying land. On the Animal Jam map, this doesn't look too much like a flying land, and we can basically rule this thing out because I've covered this in another video, but I have determined that there will never be a land here for a variety of reasons. But anyways, let's get focused on this land. People like Apari have theorized that this will be a flying animal only land, and I think that if Animal Jam was ever going to release one, it would be this one. If we look at the grand, huge Jamal map that we got from Play Wild, we'll see that it actually does look like it could be a flying land. Even in this finalized version, it still has trees and everything on it, and the buildings all appear to be far above the treetops, making me think that maybe Animal Jam Jim would release a new land that only flying animals can go to. This would also make sense because Animal Jam has become more and more focused on the idea of money recently, unfortunately, and oftentimes the updates are only made based around how they can capitalize off of them, and if they were just to release a random phantom land or a random underwater land, there might not be nearly as much money in it as making a land that's practically members only, because in the current state of the game, you can only get flying animals as a member, and I don't think that will ever change because they are such a big convenience and it's such an incentive to get membership. So I really do think that the Toucan Alpha will be very important, and I could see there being a new flying animal only land up in the top left corner. But again, this is all speculation. My main theory is that this land will be the important one, and that maybe this is to come in the future because the bottles are still landing here, and everything still does point to the fact that this has to be an underwater sort of adventure. Well, anyways, Beans, no matter what happens, I am psyched to see what Animal Jam does with this. Even if it's not a new adventure or a new land, at least we know we're getting a new animal, and I know this has to be leading somewhere. So I honestly feel like if there wasn't a new land or a new adventure, it might be even more exciting because Animal Jam is making so much hype about this. No matter what it is, it's gotta be good, and if it's something new, it's gonna be amazing. So anyways, Beans, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys are as excited about this as I am. I hope these conspiracy videos continue to help you. And remember, if you have theories of your own, please email them to julian2moments@gmail.com. I've gotten so many amazing ideas and pictures from that email and from you guys sending things to that email. Well, I really just can't thank you enough for everything you've done to help me build this huge conspiracy idea. So anyways, Beans, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!